What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave. We are back. I want to recap Dillian Whyte against Moses Itama, but before we get there, as far as a card, we got to stop with this pay-per-view thing. That was not a pay-per-view card by any means. It's just not, and I'm kind of tired of seeing cards like this, which are just normal cards, just go down and be $50. Like, this is ridiculous. We're supposed to be getting the end of it pretty soon, but we really, really need it soon, like very soon, because this is not a pay-per-view card at all. There's no reason why you can justify a pay-per-view for $50 here in America. I mean, it's just crazy. All right, but the card overall was a decent card, I guess. I think the best fight was probably Philip Hergovich and David Adelaide. I think the closest fight was probably between Nick Ball and Sam Goodman. But, overall, it just wasn't a pay-per-view worthy card. Okay. What I will say is that I really enjoyed a few moments in that David Adelaide Philip Hergovich fight, especially that eighth round. That eighth round was stupid. That eighth round was crazy. David Adelaide definitely rose his stock a little bit in that fight. Everybody just talks about the Fabio Wardley fight, and mainly because of his behavior leading up to that fight. But he definitely redeemed himself, even though he lost. He showed a lot of heart. There was some great moments there. There was periods where I was afraid that he would get stopped because, excuse me, I had picked Hergovich to win on points. So when I saw seeing him, there's moments where I thought he would get stopped. He got dropped, he got back up, and he fought hard each and every time. So it was a pretty good fight. And we'll talk more about those guys later in a different video. I want to mainly talk about Dillian Whyte, Moses Itama, and the heavyweight division moving forward. All right. All right. So look, first, let me just say this. Dillian Whyte lost a fight before it even started. I listened to a couple of content creators out there. I haven't seen anyone. I don't know if anyone addressed this on their live. I obviously wasn't on live yesterday, but I watched the fight yesterday. I wasn't home, and I knew Dillian Whyte lost the fight earlier this week, but it was mainly seconds before the fight started. All week, right? And I did a breakdown on this fight, but all week, all I saw was the lack of confidence in Dillian Whyte all week. All right. In every interview, he did the whole, all I wanted to do was see the man say, I'm going to beat this kid. Everyone is sleeping on me. I'm going to beat him Saturday night. All I heard from him is, you'll see. You'll see. You guys are the experts. You guys, anytime anyone questioned him, he responded with insecurity, with doubt. You guys are the experts, whatever guys you guys got. Even when they had their face off with Ade, the way Moses talked as if he's already, in a way, he was like maturely looking past Dillian, He was talking about, like, if I knock Dillian, like, when I heard him say talking about knocking out Dillian Whyte right in front of him, I just knew that Moses had all the confidence he needed and Dillian Whyte had zero confidence. All right. Even when they had their face-offs, he was telling him, like, calm down, we'll wait to Saturday, just being overly friendly. That's not Dillian Whyte. He's never been like that. And I know he's getting older, but I don't think any version, I think if Dillian Whyte was actually confident in who he was facing and a fighter was overconfident, he would not have let that slide normally. But the worst part was, and this is the worst thing, and this is one of the main reasons why you can compare Moses Itama to Mike Tyson. Dillian Whyte was terrified of Moses Itama. It doesn't matter that he got in shape. You know, he came in at a good weight. He was in great shape, physical shape. That guy, Whyte, walked into the ring, right? Looking scared on his ring walk. He walked into the ring, went straight to Moses' corner, dapped every single person in that corner, included Moses. I'd never seen that before. How do you climb in the ring, right? And dap everybody in that corner before a fight? That's insane. That's insane. I'm telling you, I promise you, at that moment, I picked up my phone. I went to the app, the betting app. I changed my pick from Moses rounds within 6 right over to between rounds 1 and 2. And Moses got him out of here in 1 round, within 1 round. That guy walked into the ring and dapped the whole corner. That reminded me of Mike Tyson and the fear these guys had before the fight started. Of course, he's 20, so you can compare him to that. You know, he's getting knockouts very early, so you can compare for that. But when you can get a guy, your most, I guess your best opponent to date, Dillian Whyte is his best opponent to date. When you can get him to be that scared of you prior to one punch getting thrown, I don't know what else to say. I saw fear in that man all week. But the dapping part was more than what I needed to see. So even though Dillian prepared and got in good physical condition, mentally, he already lost the fight. And there's really not much to talk about outside of the fight. We saw what we saw. The man was flinching off every feint. He was terrified of this kid. He did not want to get hit. So I know everybody's talking about the inactivity. I'm not saying the inactivity and the preparation and the coaching and his age. Listen, I think all of that plays a factor. But when you are that fearful of your opponent, you can't win. There's no way you can win. You know? And that's what I saw in Dillian Whyte. And I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm not even saying he should retire. You know? I'm just saying he just lost to someone that he never thought he could beat. That man didn't say one time all week, I'm going to beat this kid this Saturday. He wasn't direct ever. In no interview that I've seen, and I've seen a bunch, including the face-offs. He was never confident in winning this fight. All he was doing was being defensive about being the old dog. That wasn't the Dillian Whyte that I've been watching for the past 10 plus years. That's not the guy I saw. I don't think he should retire. I think like him and the guys like Zhilei Zhang, Joe Joyce, Derek Chisora, you know, some of these guys that's been around that has taken some losses, but, you know, that are still around. I think he's, you know, Kubrat Pulev, you know, some of those guys, you know, they probably should retire, but I understand that, you know, they're going to continue getting a good paycheck. And I don't really have a problem with that. You know, Whyte just lost to a kid that has potential to be the next superstar in the heavyweight division. So I would still like to see what he can do, maybe against Chisora in a third fight, or a Joe Joyce or a Zhilei Zhang or some of those guys that's kind of on their way out. You know, I just think Moses had way more ability than what he ever had. And I said this in the very beginning. I said, you know, Moses, to me, you know, I jumped on a hype train on his last fight. But I also understand that he's not fighting top tier guys right now. But in the heavyweight division, that there's not many top tier guys, you know. It's not the strongest division right now. I think Usyk is levels above everybody else, and then everything else is debatable from there. Um, but what I did say is that in the last generation, the outgoing generation of heavyweights, right? And that includes Fury, Wilder, Joshua, and so on and so forth, Parker, Andy Ruiz. As a prospect, he looks better than all of those guys. As a prospect, at 20 years old, he looked better than what a lot of those guys were at 25 to me. He's yet to really prove it in the ring, but I see way more ability in him than when I seen in those guys when they were, undefeated coming up, taking out guys at this level. He looks better than all of them. Whyte, all of them. All of them to me look good, but no one really looked like they were really that guy. The first time I realized that a fighter was like the next best guy was when Fury beat Klitschko, even though it was a boring fight. The way he just toyed with Klitschko, Klitschko didn't really have anything for him. I thought that was an impressive win. But outside of that, I think all the other top guys had really obvious flaws. Whereas Moses, I don't really see many things. I mean, everybody talks about his chin, whether or not he has one, that's yet to be seen. How does he look in the later rounds? If he were to go 10 or 12 rounds, can he really do it and perform this well? We don't know. But I mean, as far as ability and what I've seen, he's powerful. He's extremely fast. He has a good IQ. I mean, he has everything you would want from a heavyweight boxer. And I like his attitude too. He's a very likable person, and he's a very confident person. He's likable, but he's also super confident. He doesn't come off as a cocky guy. Like when I hear he respects the game. He says the right things to me without sounding too like a people pleaser. So I don't really want to see him fight Usyk. I know Turkey's the boss. I know he's the one that makes the fights. I know sometimes we get fights that we should have from him. And sometimes he just goes and do fights that he wants to see. The reason why I don't want, and I won't be mad at the Usyk fight. The only reason why I don't want the Usyk fight is because I just think there's other fighters that deserve it more. And I also think that I don't want it to be that easy for someone to get an undisputed title shot, potentially getting an undisputed title shot. You don't beat Mike Balagun and beat Dillian Whyte at 37 and just get an undisputed title shot. Like we just recently got that in the 4-belt time. We're just getting that. And I don't think a guy at his age, even though Mike did it differently. Mike had way more fights. I just think with Moses, I would like to see him fight a legitimate, active, top heavyweight. Like a Joseph Parker, like Ajik Habayel. You know what I'm saying? I just think I would like to see even like a Fabio Worley, someone that can pose some sort of threat because they're in their physical prime. I think Dillian Whyte was it was a great test. But Dillian Whyte was defeated before the fight started. We need someone in there that's confident that he's going to win. And I just think there's a lot of fighters that would have been a little bit more dangerous than Whyte. Even like a Philip Hergovich. I like the Philip Hergovich fight. I like some of those fights. Now, some of those guys, especially Parker and Caballel, who are like one fight away or they're already in position to fight for a title. I don't mind if those guys don't want to fight Moses, you know, um, because they want to fight Usyk. So if they had the opportunity to fight Usyk next, I would understand. But guys like Wardley or maybe Hergovich, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I seen an interview with Moses, and he basically brought up like Jermaine Franklin and Hergovich and some of the guys that he thinks his team wants him to go rounds. And I think his team is looking at it like the way I'm looking at it. Like, you need to go rounds, because you don't want to have your toughest challenge and learn things about going rounds when you're actually, struggling in the fight. I wanted to see him fight someone that he can't just knock out in a matter of seconds. I would like that. But then again, you never know. Like when I see a guy like Herkovich, for example, Herkovich is a durable fighter. And he is also, a guy that has great cardio. And he has, fundamentally, he's decent. Like he has a good 1-2, a good jab, a good right hand. He's basic, but he gets the job done. Hergovich gets hit a lot. So even when I think like Hergovich should be a good opponent, and he is, I could see him getting caught and getting hurt and possibly stopped by Moses as well. You know what I mean? I can see it. Even Fabio Wardley. I don't think Wardley has an IQ of any of these guys, but Wardley is like the British Wilder to me, whereas like at least there's a threat there. You might be outboxing him, but if you didn't knock him out yet, he can knock you out at any given time. It only takes one punch. He's a one punch knockout guy. And Moses kind of looks like that too, but Wardley is dangerous at all times, And I like his role. Like I like his schedule. Like it's been consistent quality, whereas Moses, he still hasn't really reached that yet. But if he were to fight Usyk, I'll say this. This might be a little bit controversial, but whatever. I like the Usyk fight with Moses more than I like the Triple D rematch. Something I'm curious. There's a little bit of curiosity there, like Usyk fighting a strong, quick, prime young man. Like, you know what I mean? I am a little curious about how that would go. Triple D is young, strong, coming off great wins, but I didn't really believe the chances of him winning against Usyk in a rematch because, in my opinion, he was dominated by Usyk in the first fight. I think the second fight just was based off the controversy. Stylistically, though, I never thought Triple D was going in. My prediction was on point. I pretty much predicted for him to stop Triple D even earlier, So I will say that I won't be upset, but I don't want Moses to get it that easy, But if the money is offered to Usyk, and that's what Turkey wants to do. Nobody else is going to offer him over $100 million per fight. If that's what the kind of money that's being sent over there, can you get mad at Usyk? Even if he's to vacate one of those titles, the WBO or whatever. If the paychecks are that big, the purses are that big, can you be mad at the dude? Yeah. So yeah, I kind of want Parker and Usyk, but I also want Parker and Caballel winner to fight Usyk. I want that too, you know. But I'm also cool. Like, listen, I'm cool with a lot of these options. If Parker were to fight Moses, like I know Parker, I've seen the interviews, Parker's gonna always say I'll fight anyone. Moses is gonna say I'll fight anyone. A lot of these guys are gonna say that. But let's be real. They really want an opportunity to fight Usyk because there's a huge reward there, there's a good purse there, and there's an undisputed championship opportunity there. That'll be a historic fight for anybody that fights Usyk. But I like the other options too. I like Kabayel, Parker. I like Parker, Moses, Kabayel, Moses, Hergovich, or whoever else is there, Wardley, whatever top ranking fighter there. I'm cool with. But I don't want to see none of these older guys get in there. You know what I mean? I have no interest in that. And again, with Dillian Whyte, same thing. Like, if he's gonna get in there with an older guy. If you guys want to keep making a few checks, get in there with another guy. I don't want to see no more young, fresh guys do it. I just don't. All right. At the very height of Dillian Whyte, I would say a guy like, I would say, I'm sorry. Let me just pull up the rankings real quick. I think at the very top tier of heavyweights, Dillian Whyte shouldn't be fighting. I wouldn't even say Lawrence Okoli. I think they had like a little rivalry at one point. I would say just that is even out the window for me. I would say at the top tier, Dillian Whyte should not be fighting any more than even the Efe Ajagba. Which I think that would be a step down for Ajagba right now. You know, um, and I think guys like Richard Torres Jr., who is also on a come up right now. I don't want to see Dillian Whyte fight one of those guys, and I don't want to see Moses fight another guy that's his age, but clearly, or not his age, but clearly is not on a level of him so quickly. So again, I like Whyte. I like against Pulev, Ajong. Um, you know what I mean? Like a guy that's been around, a Joyce and stuff. Yeah, I like those fights. All right, so I think I said everything I needed to say. There's really not much to it. I think let's wrap this up. Let me end this video with this. I still think Usyk should just retire. Now again, I'm not mad at him for wanting to fight and his will to want to fight. He has some sort of injury right now. So, but I think he could just retire right now, you know? So that's what, and I'm not with the Usyk would end Moses' career so early. I've seen people on Twitter saying that. That's stupid. Like Usyk beat a lot of people he did in their careers. Okay, a lot of these guys went on to have good careers that Usyk won against. All right, he won against Chisora. He won against Joshua. He won against Triple D, and Triple D worked his way up to a rematch. Even the guys at cruiserweight, like Marius Bridas and stuff. Like these guys had careers after that. Like stop that shit. See, there's always extremes, and there's people that's out there that are very pro Usyk that are a little afraid because they don't want it to be a young Moses who's inexperienced to be the one to win. You know what I mean? So there's a little, like, I get why some people don't want to see the fight, and I explain my reasoning. But there's some people out there that take it to the extreme where they're like, "Oh, you'll end his career so early." All right, bro. Maybe he'll just lose. I even see some idiot online that compared Moses and Usyk is like comparing Canelo and Floyd. Canelo had already had over 40 fights. They had an identical resume on paper as far as numbers, but not quality. Canelo was already a champion before he fought Floyd Mayweather. It had beat a few previous champions before he fought Floyd Mayweather. This is what I mean with these fans, man. Freaking crazy. Like fans become the biggest protectors. You know, if Usyk, I think Usyk should retire because he's had a great career. He doesn't need to do anything else. But if he wants to continue fighting, then yes, he should be fighting the best, especially if you're undisputed, even at your age. All right. So I think two things could be right at the same time. It's just that we got to get away from the extremes. All right. So I think I said everything I needed to say in that. Yo, y'all have a good day, man. It's a beautiful day out here in New York. So I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.